From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
There is danger outside, so don't go outside. You will never be able to judge for yourself how bad it is. You are better off in your own home. Stay there. Arrangements will be made as soon as possible to treat any people who are ill or injured. Details will be given about what to do, when to do it, and how. If anyone dies, move the body to another room in the house. Label the body with name and address, and cover it as tightly as possible in polythene, paper, sheets, or blankets. Tie a second card to the covering. The radio will advise you what to do about taking the body away for burial. If, however, you have had a body in the house for more than 5 days, and if it is safe to go outside, then you should bury the body for the time being in a trench or cover it with earth and mark the spot of the burial.
Welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
And this is Conlon.
And finally, that sad day has come. I got a phone call this week. I got to go back to work. And we're sitting around off the government tet. See, I got a big packet from them with a mask and all kinds of new rules and stuff. And I guess we don't get a lunch, but we get to leave early because they can't have everyone in the break room. It's like, okay, so you totally didn't plan for that at all. Forklifts are not going to charge over lunch, so and yeah, I can't get on a forklift unless there's like tape they put on it that says it's been sterilized, and so when mine dies, you're gonna have to sterilize another one I can use. Well, that's fine. Your rules, man. And Chrysler, one of their plants opened up early last week, and 35 people got put in quarantine. And somebody came into the plant and they were sick, and then they're telling the people, well, we don't pay you for quarantine. The union's like, yeah, you do. You signed something that said you would. And so all these people are waiting around, on 2-week quarantine, no money coming in. It's like, oh yeah, let's just jump back in because this is gonna be whatever. They did call. I did have some options. I mean, they called and said, well, with your seniority, you could take another 30 to 60 day layoff. And I was like, well, will I still get unemployment? Well, yeah, because you have seniority, you have first choice. And I've heard this before, and I know people I never did that, because what happens is you're gone for so long, then you finally have to come back, and they're like, oh, we gave your job away, and we don't have any openings on this shift for you, so you'll have to go to this other shift and bump back through to get to your shift, and then, if no jobs available, no job fillings are available, then you have to work on the line. It's like, no, I'll just come back. I just know how this is going to got 20-some years experience these games. So we'll see what happens Monday. Yeah, it's 6 a.m., so we'll see.
Okay, so tomorrow or Monday? Okay.
Monday, yeah, not Sunday. Because we have to go in. I mean, it takes me 45 minutes to get there. And then we go in, and then we're all supposed to funnel into one opening, but we're supposed to stay apart. And then they want to scan each of us. We have to do something on our phone that says we don't have symptoms, and we got to show someone that, and they got to scan us, and then we're supposed to show up early enough to be ready to start right on time. It's like, and I got to walk a mile to get in there because there's no bus service anymore. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna walk to that threshold at 6 a.m. and whatever happens, because I'm not playing these fucking games with you, because I know how poorly they're playing.
Yeah.
They do not have any. They don't know how to plan for anything. I'm surprised the car comes out. To be honest with you, they do not have any planning skills.
Well, Walmart, you basically as soon as you clocked in, you already have 5 minutes of pay, so that's how they do it there. Even because they just include that in. It's like, well, maybe you're at the line to get checked in for 5 minutes. Which
we don't have a time. We don't have time clocks at the big three.
Oh, okay.
30 years because people just kept sabotaging him.
Yeah.
Gave up because it was like 1,000 people clocking in. It's like that. But yeah, it's not. And there's all kinds of structural and material movement things that I know about that were very specific to my job that have basically been stopped for 7 weeks. And it's like, what's going to happen with all that material? Where's that going to go? But I don't think they're doing a full 3-shift startup. I think they're bringing in day shift crews initially. So. But they put a big ad in the paper said, we're hiring because they expect all these people to be out sick with COVID-19. It's like, well, why are we coming back then? Train new people all the time? Oh yeah, that works out. Put those guys on the Sprague gear axle assembly job. Figure it out, boys. And do it in 12 seconds. Because that's your cycle time. Put an entire ring pinion axle assembly. 12 seconds is reasonable. Means there's like 73 different variations across 4 models. Yeah, you'll figure that out right away.
It's not like anybody's going to tell you what to do. You got to figure it out.
If you ask for help, you're just going to get a dirty look. What are you, a faggot or something? What?
What does that correlate to anything?
Don't be a pussy.
So Hollywood has been affected by COVID-19. So
yeah.
so one of the interesting ones that came out recently. So the show The Blacklist.
Yeah.
So they were in the middle of shooting their season finale when they had to stop production. So now they're going to animate the season finale, which is like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. That'll be interesting.
Like a Mr. Robot thing, like something they might do.
Yeah. And then I saw the preview for it, and holy shit, they should have just punted that shit to next season because it looks fucking awful.
Is it a bunch of like still animation with words and?
No, but it basically looks like early 90s, or not early 90s, I guess like mid 90s, like PlayStation 1 graphics. That's essentially what it looks like.
Okay.
And yeah, it just looks fucking terrible. It's like, why'd you guys even bother? And I don't even know what they're using. Like, I can imagine like if they have like some previs thing that they set up and they're just using that. But also they like half of it's already shot. So sometimes it looks like they're just like plastering over previously shot footage, which makes it look extra stupid and weird.
Liquid television.
Yeah. I mean, basically.
Animation styles all at once.
Yeah, you know that Dire Straits video? It's basically that.
Okay, blocky guys.
But at some point, they're like somebody like hits somebody with a wine bottle, and they like have blood go everywhere. But like, Jesus, because like that sounded cool. It's like, oh, that'd be cool, but fuck no.
It'd be cool if Pixar was doing it or something.
Yeah, I mean, it takes forever to make cartoons anyways, so like I don't know, they couldn't get like an actual animation studio. Like it would take them like probably like 3 months to kick out an episode, an hour-long episode.
Yeah, they could probably film that quicker.
Yeah, so the season finale of Blacklist. Catch it.
But the series finale or the season finale?
I think it's just season. I actually don't know. That'd be terrible if that was a series finale.
Well, yeah, they might not have it.
I think that's like NBC's only like growing show.
Oh, that's been on forever.
Yeah.
Like I watched the first 3 seasons of that.
Because I don't even know what NBC is anymore. Like I don't know what they're. Like, who does This Is Us?
Comcast. Let's look. Good question.
I mean, I don't even know what any network television is anymore. So.
Yeah, they've all been bought up and sold so many times.
Well, I just don't watch any of it because it's not like I don't have a TV active. I know they're launching Peacock soon.
Yeah, it's gonna work out well.
Well, they did CISO before, which that was more of basically a comedy-centric streaming service, and that failed after 2 years. So,
let's see there, Comcast and Universal.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like just like what's their shows?
Oh, I thought you meant who owned them. NBC.
You know that
12 and 13. Like they were the big network.
I mean, they coasted on Seinfeld for a long time.
Yeah, but they had like all kinds of comedy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that block he had of like Community, 30 Rock, and fuck, what was the third one? Community, 30 Rock, and Parks and Rec. Parks and Recreation. That was like and I think The Office was still going at the same time at some point.
By Nielsen ratings, NBC scripted shows 2019-2020 season. Their number one show, This Is Us.
Okay.
2, Chicago Fire. Number 3, Chicago Med. There's 3 Chicago shows: Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, Chicago PD. New Amsterdam.
I've never even heard of that.
It's the Law and Order SV. That's like been on for 40 years.
Yeah.
Superstore. That's still around.
Yeah.
Okay. The Blacklist has been renewed. Will and Grace was canceled.
I mean, I think they just had like a reunion season. I don't think it was meant to be carried on.
No. Council of Dads. The fuck is that?
That sounds like a game show or something.
No, it's about a blended family of people. The patriarch's like old white people, and all their daughters married black dudes and Korean guys or something. That's what it looks like. I'm just looking.
It's a new Modern Family.
Yeah. Sunnyside. That's the room. Oh no, that's not the one. I thought there was one about a nursing home. It's that one, New Amsterdam. That's like their 4th popular show. It's a lead-in for This Is Us. It's another medical drama. So
Oh, okay.
people love those for some reason.
Yeah, I know. I've never seen This Is Us, but I know it's like huge. So
Their year-to-year changes are down 26% in Nielsen ratings. It's in the 18 to 49 demographic.
did you see that they're having another Star Trek spinoff?
No.
Yep.
What's this one?
It's in the Discovery universe, and it's going to be Spock in the Enterprise doing shit.
Okay, good. That'll be wonderful, just like the last two. Good for them, good for us.
Did you bother to finish? Is Picard finished the season? Did you watch all of it?
Yes, I did. And I mean, it wasn't the abortion that Discovery season 2 was. I mean, the thing with Discovery, like, the whole thing isn't bad. Just like the first season of Discovery had cool moments, but it just didn't hold together. Discovery season 2, like Captain Pike was cool. That whole kind of story arc with him was interesting. But then it's like the way they left it. Well, the way they left it was, I think they're giving themselves free space to further explore the Star Trek universe without being hidebound to canon, which they never seem to worry about anyway. Picard was okay, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. I mean, it wasn't the Next Generation, that's for sure.
Did they ever bring back like his roommates to do cool stuff?
What do you mean?
You know, like this caretakers, where they're the Romulan people that were just kind of like.
Oh, the Romulan people with Irish accents.
Yeah.
They never Picard.
It's like. Because I love those characters, and that'd be like I'd almost save the season for me if they like came back and did some cool shit.
Yeah, no, they didn't really come back. I mean, that was like the first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Remember, I said I said I'd heard.
Yeah.
My inside knowledge that after episode 5, there's a big quality drop off, and I wasn't misproven. It just became a mishmash. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it, but there was nothing right about it. There's nothing that makes me want to review that. Like, oh, I remember this. This was fun. No, nothing like that. it was kind of dark and bleary, and it got absurd at the very end. And so it's like, I guess this is it now. This is what they're doing,
Because they already got renewed for season 2, right?
as far as I know, yeah.
So either that's doing well for them, or they're just doubling down on that.
I don't know.
Because like, there's no, because I don't know if they've got like a lot of response like from the fans, but like critical wise and fan critical wise, like they've done nothing right.
Yeah, there's no.
Well, except for production, it's like grade A+ production, and then like
But,
D writing,
yeah.
and occasionally a good performances, and then sometimes terrible performances.
Yeah, it depends on what you're getting that day. They make it dark where it doesn't need to be. And
It seems like you could just create another show for that darkness.
yeah, it's like you could
Just do that mirror universe show that everybody wants.
just do like a section, whatever, section 63 or whatever
Is it Section 9? I can't remember.
I don't know, whatever the
The
CI
secret, yeah.
the Federation CI. Just do a show around that in small scale, not the end of the universe or temporal collisions or the AIs coming to, because basically Star Trek Picard, they just borrowed the overarching plot from Mass Effect. And it's like, I've seen this before, and that's not what you should do in Star Trek. You can debate contemporary things through the lens of Star Trek. That's when it's good. But when you're just borrowing the plot lines from Mass Effect, and you're not even doing as good a job as a video game did telling the story with a beloved character, it's like, well, this is weird. I don't know. Yeah, it's like 87% critics and 59 audience score for Picard, but so much of that's backloaded with. It's like these critics. It's like, we'll let you see the first 3 episodes 2 months before anyone else does, but you got to say something nice,
Yeah.
And it's, of course, those critics get paid on how many people read their stuff, so it's like, I think it's a whole system.
Yeah, just go to Red Letter Media where they don't give a shit about any of that.
Yeah, they're usually right. I don't find myself disagreeing with Red Letter Media a lot. The only thing I disagree with Red Letter Media on is, I'm glad you guys have the stamina to watch those terrible movies on the ones they do on purpose, like the Wheel of Death or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I've watched a lot of that over this prolonged period, and it's like, how do you watch hours of that shit? Some of the stuff is so bad I couldn't even sit through like the. I just scrub it a little bit. It's like, okay, get past these scenes. I just want to hear you guys talk about it. Funniest stuff they do is like when they do the safety videos.
Yeah.
Like Hug a Tree Canada. That is hilarious all the way through.
I love there's the I think one of the best ones of that was like the police video where it's like surviving edged weapons.
Yeah.
And I think like on the video it said like not for like consumer use or whatever, so it's like almost like this is like what you're seeing is illegal. 'Cause that video is fucking violent as shit. It's like they're showing this to cops.
Yeah, all the cops are scared shit. I like their reactions to it. Like, holy fuck, where are they living? What is this? Who's doing this?
They just knock on a door and some grandma just like shoves a katana in some guy's eye.
Yeah, crazy shit. Machete attacks. I know that goes on in police work.
Yeah.
It's like, you should show that to cops in like New York and Detroit and Chicago and out in California. But I don't think the guys like it, Duluth need. But you never know. I mean, cops only show up they never show up when like people are breaking out cake and balloons. Never when the cops are there. They're only there when people are at the lowest point of their life.
At least white people.
Yeah.
If something bad's happening to a black person, they're either the one perpetrating it or they're the ones ignoring it.
Yeah, they're either an amplifier of misery or just indifferent. Sorry, I didn't know you were taking a drink. They're like the 1,000-watt amp. Oh, this just went from expired plates to execution. We're jumping the shark tonight.
I saw I was looking at one of the demo reels or acting reels for one of the guys from the Action Boys, and he had a funny thing where he's like, because he's done a bunch of Funny or Die videos, and I'm not sure where this is from, but he's like a cop who's like unhinged, pointing a shotgun at a black guy holding an ice cream cone. It's like, you're trying to assault me with a deadly weapon. The guy's like, an ice cream cone. It's like, I will fucking destroy you.
Yeah, it's not far from the truth.
The fuck else? Yeah, Blacklist, NBC. Don't watch it. Even though I told you to watch it. Oh yeah, we were talking about Star Trek and shit like that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, that's well trod ground, and I'm not even like a current active fan in the Star Trek universe. You know, I have my memories, and that's all I'm gonna get. I mean, I sort of like the J.J. Abrams stuff.
Yeah, but it was diminishing returns.
Yeah, it's like each journey to the putting that coin in is like I get less and less for it. And I think it was a little incoherent too. It's like, where's this going? You know, they're so advanced at this point. They're like one step away from just.
Well, they also had like the weird thing of, like the original Star Trek movie, like not movie series, but like series of movies. Like they had a history behind all that stuff. So like
motion picture era.
Yeah, like you know the characters already, and there's kind of a built-in history, but you don't necessarily need to know that. But everybody knows like the characters, like everybody knows who Spock and Kirk is.
Yeah.
And so with this, like you're rebooting it, and so like everybody knows who Spock and Kirk is, but now this is a new Spock and a new Kirk, and they don't necessarily have a built-in history. So all the history is within the movies themselves, and it's pretty like surface level. There's nothing there's nothing deep about it.
Yeah, their remake of the Wrath of Khan was not.
No,
I would consider good. It's like it's an interesting idea. I like the warship that Peter Weller commanded. Like that was, well, they need a lot more shit like this apparently. But yeah, the story itself was just like, oh, it's almost like a wink, and I don't like that wink shit. Like, just don't make this movie. Make another movie. You don't need to rehash this. Make your own movie. You can do that. You're J.J. Abrams.
And that's what I appreciated about the third one, but the third one's still just kind of missing. They didn't like the final bad guy just wasn't really like it was like the third act didn't really like pull it all together.
No. I mean, yeah, it had the third one. What was the third one called? Yeah. But anyway, the third Abrams movie wasn't directed by him, but
no, that was directed by the fucking
Fast and the Furious guy. Right?
Yeah, so Justin Lin, I think so.
Yeah, but it had the cool factor of being like, oh, this is an original story within this universe. But then, yeah, it didn't follow through.
Star Trek Beyond,
yeah, it just like it's like it failed to follow through. And that's too bad because I like Christopher Pine. I mean, those actors were good.
Yeah.
Zachary Quinto, Christopher Pine, Judge Dredd, all those guys. I can only think of him in that role. All those guys did a great job, and the guy. And I even
love like that trailer where you see like young Kirk, who's like he lost his father, so obviously like no one's he's irresponsible. He has no like guiding force in his life, and he's like stealing a car and listening to Beastie Boys. Like that's like on some level, like in the whole grand pantheon of Star Trek, that's fucking stupid, but I love the hell out of it at the time.
Yeah. It worked
because like always it seemed in the Star Trek universe, like there doesn't seem to be modern culture. Like everyone just like is just like drinks wine and listens to classical music. Like that's just it's like well, we filtered we filter it down, and this is the high class stuff that's worth like spending the rest of your life about.
Yeah, we got rid of basically deleted the 20th century. There's no Nazis in the Star Trek universe. There's no death metal. They did play Steppenwolf in First Contact, but that was guy who invented warp drive.
Joseph Cochran.
Yeah, that was Cochran.
Something Cochran.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Or
watched all
Zephram Cochran. That's it.
Ephraim Cochran. Yeah, I watched all of Enterprise finally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't done that before. I'd watched it to like season 3 and sort of gave up, and I just watched it all.
Huh.
And then what else did I watch? And I've talked.
Well,
about
what'd
it
you-
before. Like it's,
Well, I don't think I've got Europe. I've talked about it before, because I mentioned how like there's this really big switch is in season 3 where they made like they have like a 9/11 happen and they have like this, and they shortened the season and it was like a story went from had a continuity from story to story.
yeah,
which was
yeah,
an
the
interesting.
Xindi- Was it the Xindi attack on Earth
Yeah,
where they basically like fired a death ray at Florida?
yeah.
Yeah, and then they had to go into dark space, to the wild space to find out who did this and why. Yeah, I watched all that.
But like I think it was a really interesting season, but like it kind of went against itself because like that whole series was kind of like we're gonna get back to the plucky Star Trek where we're just like bright future and just like, oh, look at these new civilizations. They made the Andorians really cool. They basically the Andorians were just the new like this is our Klingons for this series.
Yeah, because the Klingons were too dangerous and weird. And then they had the guy who invented. Who was it? No, it was the guy's father. The father of the guy who invented Data was a evil character
Yeah.
for a long time. Because the guy who created Data, his dad was the one who started the eugenics war and created the Khan people and all that. And then, but he had kind of a redemptive arc where he was like, "Whoa, wait, these super beings I've created are just evil. They just want to kill everyone. This isn't what I intended, even though I raised them from children."
But that was a show that got that like it came out, tried to do its own thing, and but at the same time Battlestar Galactica came out, and pretty much they had to try to beat Battlestar Galactica, which wasn't in the strong suit of that show.
No, because they had the Dark Universe trilogy on there. They had like 3 episodes of the Mirror Universe,
Yeah.
Star Trek Enterprise, which was weird.
Those ones were fun, but they had like a
They-
whole different
yeah.
opening and shit like that. But yeah, those were completely throwaway episodes. I think the only thing that there's only like one thing that was a continuity thread, and I think that was just that what was it
The Defiant.
the Defiant just like came in and out of existence.
Yeah. Which I thought it was kind of cool. It's like, oh yeah, those ships, those Star Trek original series era ships would be much more powerful than the Enterprise era ships. I forgot. Yeah, those, because they didn't really have shields or powerful multi-megaton photon torpedoes. Or I forget how powerful. There's a big debate about how powerful photon torpedoes are.
Well, is it because some writer changed something and they forget it?
No, it's just it was always like, well, this was the successor. This antimatter annihilation was the successor to nuclear power,
Yeah.
and it was they weren't radioactive, and you could store a lot of them, but they had to be the antimatter had to be maintained or contained, or they would all explode. But they always said like these are much more powerful than nuclear bombs, and then these ships are just flinging these things at each other like by the dozen. It's like, what are these ships made out of? They can tolerate like multi-megaton blasts, and because I think they never specified the power but it was always something like it was about the power of a Hiroshima nuke was always sort of the standard level. That was believable because they have all these energy shields, and those starships are very, very dense and powerful. But still, like Battlestar Galactica, they use nuclear weapons, and it was always a big deal.
Yeah.
Because when a nuke hit like the Galactica, like everything shut off, the whole ship shuttered. There's radiation contamination on these decks, and so they didn't use them a lot, but they had them.
And plus, like the whole Caprica was just nuked, like
Yeah.
it's completely. So that had some thematic elements to it.
Yeah, but in Star Trek, they've never really
Well, that's the stuff that we find cool that isn't really important to
No,
Star Trek.
it's not important unless you get on a thread with like where scientists are debating. Like then it's cool because it's like, well, that what would those starships be made out of? Where the coherency of the molecules wouldn't break apart under like multi-megaton bombardment. Well, it wouldn't because ships in space would fire a weapon. As we understand space, not in Star Trek world, ships would fire weapons weeks or days ahead. It would take that long to get there. You could plan and move out of the way. You wouldn't just see Star Trek ships fight like ships from the Age of Sail, where they just pull up next to each other and start flinging. I mean, that's not really space combat. Like even Battlestar Galactica, I think, had it more because you had fighters and missiles and some energy weapons, but not a lot. But they had to get close because they had to be within the fuel range of the fighters, and of course they were firing.
Well, and they can jump away at any time. So
yeah, but when they engaged, they were firing hundreds of missiles and then like shooting stuff down that was coming at them.
Yeah, the PDCs, they're just like making a hail of fire just outside the range of or a certain range of the ship.
Yeah, and then like what was it? The Expanse goes even crazier with that. Like as soon as the ships pop into range, you're just filling. It's like a shotgun of material flying out. I think Battlestar was more grandiose because those ships were massive.
Yeah.
There was like what 10,000 people or something on. I mean, they're just like aircraft carriers of space.
Yeah.
And their most effective weapons.
And they're built in space, so they don't have to like worry about gravity.
Yeah.
Just like one of the coolest moments in the show when you're like they jump into the atmosphere. It's like, can that thing fly in an atmosphere? It's like, no.
No. Starts burning instantly.
And they release the fighters and
yeah, that was a cool moment. There was so many cool things they did in that show. But then there was a lot of melodramatic, weird things they did where it's like, oh, come on. You're just fucking with me at this point.
well, there's a lot of heavy-handed like Bush administration stuff that they threw in there.
Yeah,
which I'm not sure if like I would be more receptive now or if I just roll my eyes at it if I saw that stuff now.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, see, there was always Battlestar, even the one from the 70s, had this heavy-handed spiritualism and belief in magic. And so they always had those elements. It's like, why are people doing stuff this obviously destructive and crazy? Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. And then you had the god of the Cylons, which was like the real god. And then you had the heathen gods that like all the humans, like that just played patty cake with. Like I don't think they really had any faith other than whatever advantage it gave you. Because the Society of the 12 Colonies was actually pretty vile and self-serving and evil in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't like great people. Or they were just kind of an amalgam of what the world's really like.
Yeah, that's what Caprica was supposed to show, but didn't.
Got weird. Caprica got weird.
Well, like having like half your show take place in like a internet space VR room that was terrible.
Yeah.
And never advanced the plot until like the last episode and then canceled.
The only thing interesting about Caprica, I think, was the culture of the Sagittarians, like the people that had tattoos all over them, and like Adama's people.
Yeah.
Like, because you never understood, like, why do they always look down? It's never really explained, like, what Adama's past was and who the Sagittarians were. It's like, oh, they're just like Russian gangsters that ran a planet. And they were very dark people that like had ritualistic murder and rituals for everything, and they were all kind of, everything was vaguely corrupt. But yeah, that was I never watched anything past Caprica because I know they made.
Is there something?
They made a prequel thing that was supposed to be. It was terrible.
Oh yeah, it was just like a TV movie, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was god awful because it came out like 2 years after.
Was that Blood and Chrome?
No, I think it was called The Plan.
Oh, okay.
But
Because they had some like they did do some like web series where it was like 10 minutes things to like bridge some information between seasons, and I think Blood and Chrome was like one of those.
That could have been.
That blood, I believe Blood and Chrome is about like early Adama like fighting the first Cylon War.
Oh yeah, yeah, I do remember that because that's where the whole thing came from, where his Viper got shot up in an atmosphere.
Yeah.
He was trying to shoot the other ship with a pistol, which was kind of weird and cool at the same time because they didn't know who the Cylons were. They just knew they were being attacked by something else. Yeah, I do remember that because the ship went into. They were trying to figure out who the Cylons were and capture one of their bases, and then that they said, "Oh, if the Cylons show up, we're just going to blow up our ship." It's like, what? We can't be caught doing this. It's like you're just going to kill 5,000 people. Okay, that's pretty dark. Well, I mean, I guess the Cylons would just kill them anyway. So. But yeah, that was weird. What's the other thing I watched? Oh, I watched all of the Netflix Lost in Space.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those I meant to, because I really liked the first season, and the second season came out. I was just in the middle of too many things, and I just haven't watched it yet. It's like
Second season's stronger than the first.
okay, because like I remember like I really liked the first season, but a lot of people didn't, and their reasons why were like valid. It's just like what I liked about the show is I liked it's people solving problems, and I thought they had interesting solutions to the problems.
Yeah.
I like that one where like the car gets like stuck in the mud and like they like end up using like a parachute to get out of the mud. Like that was cool.
It was a tar pit, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was actually pretty good. I mean, I didn't like about the first season. They kind of got away from the psychodrama that they had a lot of in the first season, where it was just like a lot of people staring at each other. Like, what does this mean? It's like after a while that got a little tedious. I didn't like Dr. Smith at first, and then I figured out, oh, this person's like a totally psychopathic manipulator.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, it seemed like kind of a weak Dr. Smith at first. It's like, how is she a threat? Because like the Dr. Smith from, like the Dr. Smith I liked was the Gary Oldman one from that terrible movie, because he did a great job.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And that guy was actually like a doctor, and he was smart, and you didn't want that guy. You know, the guy was evil and selfish too, but he actually seemed like way more intelligent and obviously dangerous. Whereas this lady just more, it's all manipulation and
Yeah, which I think is interesting.
yeah, it was. I mean, I got.
Like, I like that. I like that shift because usually that character is just like, oh, he's just a genius who has no morals.
Yeah.
And with this, it's like she's posing as a genius who has no morals, but really she's not even a doctor. Like this is all, it's like all her cunning to subvert and trick everyone into believing that she is.
Yeah, how she subverts people and the like the forethought and planning she has. It came even more because in the second season they're back on the main ship eventually, and it becomes even more interesting how she can manipulate a lot of people, and she just lays out plans very far ahead. And sometimes it's hard to see like exactly where she's going.
So I thought that was an interesting reveal in the first. I think that's a reveal in the first season where it's like you think she's a real doctor, and they do her backstory. It's like, oh, she stole that person's identity.
Yeah, stole several identities. Just a criminal.
I can't. What happened to Earth? Earth's dying, or is it dead?
Well, it gets weird.
Okay, I can't remember the first season. I thought it was like they all left to try to save Earth, or are they just leaving to like save humanity?
Well, it's strange because what I didn't realize is actually how close to our time this. So I always think of Lost in Space as like 200 years in the future.
Yeah.
It's like we've depleted our resources. We've got to go to Proxima Centauri, and because there's an Earth-like planet there, and that's usually the story. This, they don't give dates, but when they're back on Earth, it's like Oh, their dad was a Navy SEAL. That's in the U.S. Navy.
Yeah.
Like they're driving Hondas around and Tauruses, and it's like, where did they get the wherewithal? And they've already made like 20 trips back and forth to. It's not Proxima Centauri, Alpha Centauri. That's
Yeah.
the planet. They've made 25 trips back and forth already, and then you come to find out the disaster was what they called the Christmas star, which they said it was a giant meteor that slammed into Earth. But they said it didn't act like a meteor because it kind of came in, it coasted in, and when it hit it, did whatever asteroids do to Earth. But it turns out it was that alien, the robot.
Yeah.
Okay, it was one of those that crashed its ship. Now they haven't said yet whether we shot it down or not, but the engine they're using to drive the main ship is the engine from the robot ship that crashed on Earth, and they're torturing one of those robots to make it do things for them.
Okay, yeah, because they had like all the, like the engine of the ship like was like heavily like they couldn't get to it, and it was like heavily secretive.
Yeah, so this is like maybe 20 years from now, or technologically, but of course they just had to pour all their resources into get it. But it's only the rich and the perfect people and the really smart people that are getting to lead.
Yeah.
Because like Don West is just he's a basically a service engineer for those ships, but he doesn't get to go. He just comes back with them every time. So his motivation as a character is kind of interesting. He's like he's not a fighter pilot. He's just someone who's really good at fixing stuff. And but yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm not one of the chosen ones. As soon as they're done going to Alpha Centauri, I'm back on a dying planet with a nice pension. Yay for me, But yeah, you come to find out, it's like, oh, this isn't as far in the future as what we think.
Huh.
That, or they just didn't want to spend money making Future City. It's like, yeah, everyone drives retro Hondas. But I mean, like I said, he says the dad in that movie is like he's a Navy SEAL in the U.S. Navy. So it's like, well, if that's still around, there's still countries and nationalism, then it can't be that. It's not 200 years in the future. So.
There's that, and then like I still haven't seen any of the third season of Ozark yet.
Yeah, that's one of those shows I need to watch eventually. I watched like the first season. It's like interesting character. It's kind of like the evil characters in what's that one, like Fargo. It's sort of like you never know, but it's less quirky.
Yeah, I mean, it's more Breaking Bad, where it's like we'll put this guy in the worst possible situation and like see like how he cleverly gets his way out of it. And every time you don't believe he's gonna get out of it, and like he pulls something out of his ass at the last moment.
They've got some good characters in there.
Yeah,
it's an intriguing story.
So it's F1 silly season again.
Okay, what's going on now?
There's been lots of moves, a lot of drivers moving to different teams, at least next year. So they're it's not immediate. Because they're still planning to have like at least an 8-race season this year, if they get that.
Okay.
Like right now, they plan things down to where like they're gonna do multiple races in one location.
Oh, okay.
And then I don't know like how they're gonna do everything, like if they're gonna have fans or not, or just have empty stadium races or not. I don't. That's the one sport you can get away with that, because like you don't watch racing to see like the fans' reaction to anything.
Yeah. Yeah, because isn't NASCAR running now?
I believe they have an event planned in June.
Okay.
So that's the closest thing that I know of. That's because I don't even know like when. I think like it's like August or September when F1 is planning to get back.
Oh, okay.
And I know like football wants to start up again in September. I don't even know what the hell they're going to do with basketball. They're just going to call a season a loss.
Yeah, they're having lots of meetings. Well, I mean, it all depends, it depends what the second wave does. That's I mean, that's what we're going to find out at work in the next couple weeks. Like if we go to work and it's like diminishing population every day, and it's like, do we have enough people to even put a truck together here? What are we doing? So yeah, because I know like, well, nobody knows what's going on in China because that's just the Great Wall of China. But I know those guys in the Navy that got evacuated off that aircraft carrier that all got sick. Well, they went back to duty. They got it again. They've been bailed out again. So I fuck, who knows? You know, that it all depends on what happens with.
Well, and there's the weird thing where like Russia seemed to be handling this like pretty well because they just shut the borders down, and then just like all of a sudden like number 2 in the world in infections and deaths. Well,
Yeah.
not deaths yet, but infections.
And doctors are throwing themselves out of windows. 3 doctors have fallen out of a window. 3 different people. It's like, huh.
Yeah, medical school makes you really clumsy in Russia.
Yeah. Science makes you prone to suicide. Like information. But nobody knows what's going, you know, it's anyone's guess. I mean, you can be sure it's nothing good.
So the first move that happened in F1 is that Sebastian Vettel said he is not renewing his contract with Ferrari. So Sebastian Vettel is a 4-time champion, but he moved to Ferrari. He used to be with Red Bull and moved to Ferrari, and he really hasn't. Like he's made like number 2 and number 3 finishes, but like for Ferrari, that's like terrible. Like the amount of money Ferrari throws at it, they want a win every year.
Right. Yeah. You expect something for your $20 billion race team.
Well, that's because like in the early 2000s, something Schumacher. He was a 6-time champion at Ferrari. So that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of expectations they put on all their drivers.
So he's not renewing his contract, or they're not renewing him.
Both.
Mutual agreement.
Well, what's interesting is that like Sebastian Vettel hasn't announced where he's going, so I don't know if he's just retiring from racing, or if he's gonna go to another team. Because like there's only one team up from Ferrari, and that's Mercedes, and I think Mercedes seems to be happy with their drivers,
Yeah.
at least at the moment. So I don't know why. Because I'm pretty sure like whatever they're paying Valtteri Bottas, they'd have to pay Sebastian Vettel more, and he's probably not going to like do better.
Oh. So you gotta bang for your buck there. Huh?
Yeah. And like we don't even know if Mercedes is going to like stay in the sport, which that's weird. It's like the most dominating team of like all time, and like we're getting out of it.
They just can't afford it, and they consolidating.
They can afford it. I just the way the rules are shifting to where you basically can't outspend teams anymore. Like every team's gonna have a budget. Well, like they're not interested in that. They want to dominate.
Oh, actually, okay.
So then Carlos Sainz from McLaren is now signed up with Ferrari for the 2021 season. So he's going to be their second driver. So he's a great driver. He is the best of the not big 3 teams. Like so, not Ferrari, Red Bull, or Mercedes. Like he was the best driver out of the rest of the bunch. So it's a good driver. It's a good pickup for them. And also they said he was cheap. So that's not doesn't sound good, but yeah, it's probably good for them. He's a good enough. Yeah. I don't know if he'll be the main driver there because Charles Leclerc like actually won races. So, but Carlos Sainz hasn't yet. But yeah, it seems it seems to be a good pickup on both ends there. But we'll see what happens. And then Daniel Ricciardo is leaving Renault and will now take over Carlos Sainz's spot. So he's moving to McLaren. So this is going to be his 3rd move in 3 years. Because you're watching the Drive to Survive. He leaves Red Bull to go to Renault.
I was gonna say, yeah, this was the guy that quit Red Bull.
Yeah, okay. And now he's quitting Renault and going to McLaren. Which I'm guessing is a move because McLaren did really well last year, and they've been sucking for a really long time. So that's probably good for him. And I think they're switching to the Mercedes engine soon.
Oh, okay.
Because they still run the Renault engines, which are expensive and not reliable. But for some reason, they still perform better than Renault, even though Renault makes the fucking engine. So It's good on McLaren's part. Like, they figured something out.
They're doing something.
Because usually, like, whatever team like actually makes engines, like the manufacturers, they're usually the better teams because they're like have more money, have more technology behind things. They can kind of adjust things quicker than what a customer team can.
Yeah.
But it seemed to be the opposite here. But you know, McLaren's a fucking car manufacturing company and has, you know, lots of engineering brain power behind them, so you know they can figure stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's all the moves. And then yeah, that leaves. So now you're gonna have an open spot at Renault, if they still stay in F1. I think they will, but they keep losing customers. But the thing about Renault is that it's not necessarily that like backed by Renault itself. It's that like it's backed by the French government, so that's where they get a lot of their money from.
Oh, okay. That helps when you get a government backing your race team.
Yeah. And some people were speculating that Alfonso, oh fuck, what's his name? Something Alfonso. He's a champion driver. He was actually in that first season of F1. He was who was he driving for? I think he was driving for McLaren. And he was a veteran driver, and then like by the end of that season he retired. So people are speculating that he might get back in, or there just might be another 16-year-old driver they'll promote to F1 because that seems to be working. So whatever. So yeah, that's F1 silly season, which is what they call it when there's lots of moves and stuff. Which is a very British term because it sounds fucking stupid.
Yeah, wasn't the Tiger Woods of Formula One? Isn't he British?
Oh, Lewis Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah. Guy's worth like 400 million pounds.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think how rich F1 drivers are because it doesn't necessarily seem like they hold that kind of gravitas worldwide to demand that kind of money that they make.
I think F1 drivers are like soccer players here. It's like kind of we're not really into it.
Well, there's a lot of it's a lot of Michael Jordan stuff. There's a lot of like independent contracts that you get hoisted upon yourself. Like he's an F1 driver, but he has like a contract with Tag Heuer, and they pay him, $5 million a year to wear their shirts when he's doing like interviews or something. It's like you can a lot of lucrative stuff there. And there's also weird stuff where you have paid drivers where this is a rich person's sport, and some people that like I'm a good driver, my dad has money, and then somehow you end up racing in F1.
Yeah,
not because you're good, but because you bring money to the team.
Very European.
Yep.
All the rich guys. Well, that should be interesting. See where that goes.
Yeah, but all that stuff doesn't happen until next year, so.
Yeah.
If they race this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who does what this year. And how that's going to upset the apple cart. And how many more trillions of dollars, euros, and other currencies are going to go into just keeping this stuff on life support. Because it will.
Yeah. But yeah, they did move back the technical specification change to 2022. So.
Oh, they just offset costs to the teams.
Yeah. But they were supposed to have next year. They were supposed to have a whole new different car. So, but
right.
So they changed that. That's also the year where they're supposed to have like fixed budgets for the teams.
Yeah, they're gonna go to that NFL. Was that the NFL that does that?
Well, I mean, I don't. The cap, yeah. I mean, like every sport does it, but some people are like, some are hard cap and some is soft cap, and some stuff is like just weird. Like you can get around it if you just do enough. If you have a really clever accountant, you can get around all of that stuff.
Yeah. And that's,
Or, yeah, because right now I think like there's no limit to like what the teams can spend on
Yeah.
on developing their car. There are a lot of limitations on like how they can develop the car. Like I said, like they can't just like take the car out and race like
Yeah.
every day to see how it works. Like there's like specific windows when you can actually like test your car.
yeah. They have
Uh,
like a workout time, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, like wind tunnel data, computer, um, like fluid dynamic simulations, like all that stuff. Like they can do that as much as they want. I believe they can. They might start limiting that, but yeah, that's F1 if that happens this year. So,
Yeah. If it happens.
what was that? I can't remember if I had another wrestling thing to talk about or not. There's a new Streets of Rage game.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did you ever play Streets of Rage?
It sounds familiar.
It was a Genesis game, but it had really cool music.
Okay.
And you just, you know, it was a beat 'em up game. They made a sequel that was really brought it back after like 20 years. How long it's been since the third one? It's pretty good. It's a really cool game.
Okay. It sounds familiar.
The music is not as cool or revolutionary as the other ones, but it's fine.
Oh, okay.
There's some interesting art design. The way they design the women is interesting and I don't know if it's like sexist or not because it doesn't necessarily seem to be like titillating the male gaze. Because there's a lot of like women who are apparently like it seems like they're braless, but they're not like oh look at those nipples, like they're not like showing the nipples, but there's a lot of like boobs going to the armpits. Like that's which is an interesting choice. But like the fighting system is it's pretty basic, but like you can do a lot of cool juggling and stuff. I mean, the original Streets of Rage was very simple. Remember one thing I figured out, like I don't think it even tells you this in the manual, but like if an enemy throws you and you press up and jump before you hit the ground, you'll like land it instead of like taking damage. So they brought that back here. There's a combo. So originally in the Streets of Rage 2 at least, you have these special power moves, and if you use them, it would take health away from you. So in here, it does this thing where like it takes the health away, but it's like kind of like grays out the health bar, and then if you don't get hit, if you hit other people, you basically get life back. But if you get hit, then you lose all that life that you took to use the special move.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of an interesting like push and pull.
You got to pay it off and not get hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's Streets of Rage 4. So
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. This seems very familiar to me. It's kind of a weird long arc. Streets of Rage 3, 1994. Streets of Rage 4, 2020.
yeah, well, I mean, it's like that was yeah, I don't know.
25-year hiatus.
Yeah, they never did anything on the Saturn. They never did anything on the Dreamcast while Sega was still making consoles. So yeah, but also like just kind of beat 'em ups fell out of favor.
Yeah, there was a lot of other things.
Well, like everything went 3D, and like there were some games that did like a 3D beat 'em up, like Fighting Force.
Yeah.
Or Die Hard Arcade. That's a cool game though, but yeah, that stuff didn't really take off. So
I finally got around to seeing Parasite.
yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You watched it in chunks, didn't you? You like watched half of it and then came back and watched the other half.
Yeah, it got broke up. Yeah, it was that was an interesting movie. That's I mean, it's like this is the guy who did Snowpiercer, right? That's the thing we would know him for.
I think so.
Yeah. Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah.
Bong Joon-ho. Yeah. I mean, I like the movie. It just takes such a turn. It's like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
But I didn't read anything about it before I watched it either. I like the family. It's like, oh, this is the family from Shameless,
Yeah.
the poor family that's like just struggling to survive in any way they can.
Yeah. It's. I don't know. I think it's something with South Korean movies where like they're weirdly American. So like
Yeah.
this is relatable, even though it's a completely different culture. But they seem to be like hitting on the same things that American movies hit on. And I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they did that on purpose or if that's just, there's just South Korea has a similar culture to America.
I think that's the latter. Well, you got to remember we had a big influence over there and just have huge bases, military bases over there.
Yeah.
But we were not the aggressors against them. We were helping defend them. Well, it depends on who you ask, but because I like when the guy's wife does the imitation of the North Korean news announcers talking about sending the video of the family out and the husband's just sitting there with his hand over the button. It's like a button on a missile, and she starts doing the North Korean crazy. 'Cause I played the North Korean anchors once to intro a show. It's just real crazy, bombastic talk.
Yeah, I like that the one wife, she's like an gold medal Olympic athlete, and like this what's happened to her.
Yeah, life was not fair. Because the thing about the family that they're the shysters is like they're not bad people really. They're just in a bad situation and they're willing to do almost anything to survive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just another. This guy seems to like class.
Yeah.
Like, because Snowpiercer. I mean, I know it was based on a French comic, or I'm sure, and the French are obsessed with class too. But yeah, this kind of hits on the same, upstairs downstairs kind of story about the very rich versus the very poor. And the family of rich people. I like the wife is so vapid. Like the guy who's supposedly teaching his daughter English hands her a degree from Oxford. It's fake, of course, but it's an Oxford University English degree, and she's like, I don't look at the things. Like, wow, it's okay. If someone handed me that, I would be immediately suspicious. Like, you're going to teach my daughter English? You're gonna teach from Oxford? Okay, that's slumming it, but all right.
I thought that was interesting. I watched one of the Binging with Babish episodes, and I'm not sure if like I would have picked up on this, but there's that thing that when they're coming back from the camping trip, she tells her to make something ramen.
Yeah.
And like on that episode on the YouTube show where he makes it, he basically explains that it's like the beef she's using is like it's essentially like $100 beef, and then you're putting it with like instant ramen noodles.
Yeah.
Like it's this like extravagant meat put with like the cheapest thing you can get.
It's like macaroni and cheese on top of like a filet mignon.
Yeah.
But a real one that's aged like 70 days. Costs like $50 for a tiny cube of it. Yeah. So I thought that was strange too.
Which I don't think I watched that episode before, so I doubt I would have picked up on that while watching it if I hadn't seen it beforehand.
I just assumed, I didn't know specifically what was going on, but it seemed like those would be expensive cuts of meat here, just chop up and kind of mix together. So I assume it's like, oh yeah, it's these whimsical, out of touch rich people. Like, just whip me up something that would cost like $300 a night snack. So it translated to me. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I assumed it's like, yeah, that's expensive meat. Like, yeah, I like how because when they first went into the bomb shelter, when they first discover, because the lady's goes down there, it's like, oh, were they hiding from like North Korea and their missiles and attacks, and that was part of the reason.
Yeah, well, that's why it was constructed in its first place. But
yeah, well, also to hide from people you owe money to.
yeah. Now it's being used as hiding from debtors.
No, she said the guy who originally built the house also intended for that, too.
Oh, okay.
His architectural ventures did not pay off. He could have a place to hide from the debt collectors. It's like, what kind of debt collection do they have in Korea? You got to build like nuclear bomb shelters to get away from them. But I assume these aren't loans from banks, so
Yeah.
yeah, if you borrow money from the mob here, they'll come and kill you too. So, which is why you don't ever do that. But yeah, that's it was a cool movie. I was not. It kind of went a direction I wasn't expecting, and then, even at the end of the movie, towards the end, like when the wife dies and the husband just comes out and just starts stabbing people. But see, everything I could see why this won Best Picture, because like all the themes that were established all paid off, which is sometimes you don't get that.
Well, and plus all the class stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, well, I think like probably Once Upon a Time in Hollywood probably deserved it. It's like there's nothing culturally or like morally advancing about that movie. That's just like a love letter to Hollywood itself.
Yeah. And which is a movie I won't watch. But however, I will watch this. Even though it's in another country, and I don't necessarily, I'm sure there's stuff, and I'm sure there's nuanced things in that I probably missed, or there's not, or it was made for an international audience, just shot in Korean. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh.
I hope.
Well, I mean, I've seen a bunch of Korean movies, and that, like I said, they're always like uniquely American.
Yeah, I mean, that one we watched, still my favorite, is The President's Last Bang.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just a movie about politics in this country. Like, what if there was a coup in America? Would it be this fucked up? Yeah, probably. It's believable. I mean, especially look who's our president now. It's like, I can see someone, just stabbing Donald Trump by a pool, declaring themselves president for life, and then the military.
While Taylor Swift is singing a song.
Yeah, just loudly belting it out. I can see that happening.
Or like Old Boy. Like, I wouldn't say there's nothing. I don't know. There's just like the stuff. Like, obviously this is a completely different country, a different culture, but there's just like some little things where like people are wearing jeans and t-shirts.
Yeah.
That would seem like in a way that Americans would. I don't know. It's just like there's kind of an American style that that we inadvertently brought there or whatever, whatever, but it's still present.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Well, that's one of those English first countries too. It's kind of weird, where it's like everyone's bilingual. And
Yeah.
The language is English. It's like that's those guys always translate well.
But like you watch Japanese movies. I wouldn't say there's like those are usually like everything is different. Everything is different.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't necessarily pick up anything American, but like with South Korean films, there's like a weird, just something you can.
It's kind of almost a funhouse mirror. Like, oh, I sort of recognize that.
Yeah.
I could see people behaving that way here. I could see. I understand what they're talking about. Because even when they're talking about ghosts, it's like, do you believe in ghosts? Yeah, of course. It's not a Christian country, but yeah, there's people here that believe in ghosts. Like, yeah, the house is haunted. Yeah. So there was nothing going on there that. I mean, yeah, like with Japanese stuff, and most of what I watch is anime, and mostly it's stuff you recommend. And that's one of the problems I have is like the Japanese don't know how to finish or tell a complete story. They have a lot of segments of cool stuff, but it doesn't like mesh together at the end. It's like, oh, this comes full circle. It just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. Is this where The Ring came from? Is that a Korean movie originally, or was that Japanese?
I believe that's Japanese.
Is it okay?
Because it was originally called Ringu.
Yeah.
Or there's Ju-on. That was the other one, because there was a whole slew of Japanese horror movies that we remade.
Yeah, no, I've watched. I didn't know it was Japanese. I mean, it's been years, but I watched the original Ring, and I actually found the American Ring was like, I like this. The Japanese Ring seemed. It's like, why is everyone looking at the camera with their eyes real wide? What? Okay, show me the scary thing, because it was there, but it was like in flashes. Whereas The Ring, it was like, oh, it stayed on screen for a while. It's like, this is some weird shit going on. But yeah, they don't need to remake Parasite in America. I hope they don't.
Well, yeah, you just watch a season of Shameless. You'll get it.
pretty much the same story. Only everyone's not dead or hiding, sending Morse code through the house. You know.
I mean, it's like I'd say like there's usually in Japanese stories there's always kind of this weird like, you know, there's less individualism and it's more about like, you know, what can you do for your country and stuff like that. Where I think with like South Korean films it's more about like individuals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I could see that. They seem less homogenized there,
Yeah.
and also more like open with their feelings.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. Yeah, come on. Whereas in Japan, it's like nothing is wrong. Steady eye contact. Walk straight ahead. But also, Korea's had a very different history from Japan too.
Yeah, yeah.
Very, very different. Much darker history, almost. I mean, Japan has a dark history, but mostly as
It's inflicting the darkness on others.
Yeah. So yeah, Parasite. Check it out. I definitely see why it won this year. I didn't get it at first, and I was kind of like, huh, okay. And then I watched it, and I was like, yeah, I would probably pick this movie, because I looked at what was competing against it, and was like, yeah, I kind of like this.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because I almost like stopped watching it about an hour through the movie, like when they start hanging out at the house and just like drinking all the booze.
Yeah, just booze, and boy, do they booze in this movie! Holy shit, that they booze!
And I was just like, I don't know, like what is it about this movie? And like I almost stopped there, but then when they introduced the bomb shelter, that kind of just reinvigorates. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
And I like how the husband in the basement would flash the light because he would know when Mr. Park was walking by.
Yeah.
Some of his steps and thank you. You know, it's just kind of the weird obsessions that develop, basically living in a bomb shelter full time, knowing there's a complete world outside, but they can't be a part of it because they owe money to the mob.
Or like the way they shot that one part where like he's coming up out of the cellar and he scares the shit out of the kid.
Yeah.
Like they shoot that really well because he basically looks like a ghost in the darkness, and they didn't do any effect at all. It's just the dude.
Yeah,
he's just he's just walking upstairs in darkness, and he looks fucking weird and scary as shit.
Yeah, I like that little kid that like the rich families obviously like you're totally out of touch with the problems this kid has. Well, it was funny that the kid was into Native Americans.
Yeah,
it's like that was weird. Probably couldn't do that here because everyone was wearing headdresses at the party. It's like, do that. I like the one. It was some comedian pointed out that like he's going to write a letter to the Academy about the lack of racial diversity in Parasite. Like he was all Koreans. You didn't have there was no racial diversity there at all. That would have been funny. Probably not well received in today's world. I don't know.
And I like they did that thing like where like basically people have their English name, which is always fun.
Yeah.
Call me Lucy.
Yeah, that thing because he had all those awards on his wall, Park, because it said what was his name, Nathan Park or something. It's like, oh, is this guy like a Korean from America at first, and then they explained like, what's your English name?
Yeah.
And yeah, we did that because when I was in taking French, my French name was it Xavier or something? I don't know. It was something. No, it was Death. Morte. That was my French name. Death. The teacher was like, "Fine, just do it. Well, whatever."
Well, I just know like there's a lot of like Chinese students at college. Like they just have like their like their name would be like Wanju or something like that, but it'd be like X's and I's and U's and stuff like that. And if you looked at it, you'd probably fuck it up. And then like, just call me Karen.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I actually made a lot of friends with some of the guys from the Middle East at work. Because here everyone calls him Sam. That's like the name. It's like, hey, come here, Sam. And I asked the one guy one day, I was like, why does everyone call you? Your name is not Sam, obviously. And he's like, no. So what's your name? And he goes, my name is Hassan. I said, Hassan or Hassan? He goes, no, Hassan. And I was the only one that called him that. And he was like, well, everyone calls me Sam. I was like, don't you want to be called by your real name? Because if I came in and everyone was calling me Bill, I'd be pretty pissed. It's not Bill. My name's Nathan. Because I have to correct people. Hey, Nate. No, it's Nathan. Nate is not. That's not my name. Well, okay. It's like it's a big deal. It's like, no, it's just call me. I get to choose. I have very little control in my life. But or just yell out my pay number. Just call me like a prisoner.
My name is just slightly weird enough that everybody gets it wrong, and I just don't care what they call me.
Colin? Colon?
Colon, yeah, that's always the fun one.
Actually, it's semicolon. That's my dancing.
It's colon. It's colon obstruction. My last name's obstruction.
Oh.
So yeah, people just. Some lady was calling me Carl at work. That was fun. It's like, what? Yeah, starts with a C. Yeah, whatever. And like, I just don't care because like it's not. Because there's like, the time you spend to correct them is not well spent, and they'll still fuck it up. So, I understand their intent.
I'll correct them each and every time because it's usually the only interaction I have with most people. Hey, is it Nate? No, it's not. It's Nathan. Okay. It's Nathan. Yep. And I know all the rules. I like to read the contract. So before you wink at me and we're buddies, understand that.
Also, like not correcting people on a name, like you just don't. There's not like there's never like a concise, like gossipy, like image going around about you. Like nobody knows who you are because nobody knows who you're talking about.
It's a great English man. They'll come and talk to you about that. Carl fucks an asshole. Yeah, he is. Hey, were you just talking to Colin over there? Yeah. What he told me about Carl. And nobody can keep it straight. Well, he was on first, and I smoked meth at lunch. So yeah. And somebody will freak out. He's 3 different people. I've seen him 3 different times. He's a different person every time. A demon. There's all kinds of ways you could go with it.
Yeah.
It'll never be that fun or interesting.
Also, it's Walmart, so like the turnaround for everyone's like really quick. So it's like I'm always gonna see new people all the time. So it doesn't matter that they know who I am.
Speaking of turnaround, my son was talking to me today. Someone got fired today at Kroger. They made it 2 days. I was like, what did they do? Oh, yelled fuck at a boss. It's like, really? They didn't know not to do that? Like, well, they were cursing in front of the customers, too. It's like, well, yeah. Customers deserve to be cursed at sometimes. I get that. But it's like 2 days? That's... Where were they working before? A prison? Where's the normal? Were they working at the plant with me?
I don't know, some people, it's like, fuck this, I don't need this. Which I probably put, I guess, like...
I don't know.
I've never been in that position where I can be like, fuck this, I don't need this.
Not like I haven't been walked out before, but I certainly wasn't ready for it. But, yeah, that surprised me. It's like, yeah, okay. I guess he didn't need his job, because Grayson hates, he doesn't like his job at all.
No.
But, I can't quit until you have another one. Then you're free to quit. As long as you got another one, I don't care.
What was the other blistering customer insight I had today? I had one on deck, but I don't know. I think I was just going to like... Oh, no, I had something just like really mean to say about a conglomerate of a person.
You mean conglomerate of a person?
Well, it's just like this basically the same lady, and it's a different lady, but the same person exists. Like pretty much everywhere you go. Where it's like maybe like 20-year-old overweight lady in her pajamas that's very loud and sounds like she's chewing gum, whether she is or not.
Yeah.
Is loudly exclaiming like bragging about herself, whether she's talking to a person next to her or is on the phone,
Or
is
across the floor.
scuffling her feet on the ground so you can hear every step she doesn't take.
Yeah.
Just like skating across the. I had some mean sentence I was gonna like when people that just can't lift up their feet, and it's like they would, like, they might as well just be walking around with a gun in their mouth, like.
Yeah.
Just like how sad sacks they want to be, like, well, I wish I had the energy of a school shooter to follow through with my plans.
Yeah. Only I had the will to murder. I saw someone today, and as a matter of fact, when I went to Walmart to get water, me and Grayson were in there, and there was some dude, you know, and here you got to wear masks when you go in any building. And there was some dude riding around in one of those carts and made two of me, which that's doing. Like, if you're two of me, you got your own TV show. You know? It's like that. That's a big boy. And he was riding around with his mask around his neck, or just around his neck, you know, not even, and just hitting the cart and just driving around randomly. It's like, dude, yeah, why are you wearing that mask? I mean, you're fucking dead. I mean, it's just, you can't even get around Walmart, you know, without a cart. It's like, wait, you should have like be in a decon suit, because if you get shit, you're done.
Oh man, it's extra sad. So that guy's by himself, so that's fine. What's extra sad when there's like a train of people that are obviously, it's like the saddest is probably like, I don't know. I guess I have more understanding of the mother daughter combo driving around the scooters.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like I think the daughter can walk around, but whatever. But
It's fun.
But when
The
it's
one thing I do with mom other than smoke crack. But
when it's a father son combo, it's like extra sad somehow. I don't know.
There's some weird people in this country, man. There's some weird shit going on here.
Nah, I mean it's probably just general obesity and depression. Just over a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean it's built up to this. This is what's, you know, this is where we're heading. We just don't know what people are, you know, I don't know. Some people get in these weird cycles. Like, I still basically enjoy my life and can do the things I want to do. And I haven't really winnowed that down a lot in the last 10 years. I mean, I don't do things like ride motorcycles and stuff anymore, but that's because, like, not because I'm too fat to ride motorcycles. It's because I just don't want to pay for them. But it's like all the stuff I want to do. Like, I couldn't imagine, like, you know, I'm just strapped in a Mart cart, you know, at my age with no other underlying health conditions. And just like, yeah, I'm just cruising around, you know, 600 pounds. And you're not working, you know, you can't work with that big, or maybe you can, I don't know. But it's just like, what are people doing? Or then just the families of people that, you know, the whole parade of just like strung out looking parents and kids all wandering around. It's like, where are these people going? What's a day in the life here like? I mean, I'm sure they're not reading Proust and talking about. I know that's not going on, but what is going on? Or do I want to know? Sometimes you don't want to know what's going on. And then there's people who have money. Do you know about that guy that ran that tech company in Utah?
No.
Just got sentenced to. Yeah, he had 13,000 images, videos, whatever, of child pornography, including stuff that was obviously being done with toddlers, and then bestiality child pornography. Like, he just went full circuit, but because this guy had a bunch of money, he got like 215 days in jail and then a fine. It's like, what? That sounds like life in prison shit. Like, where do you get this? You know, and that guy's got millions of dollars, and he's obviously like gone some weird direction too.
I saw some on Reddit where they had a post of like something like that, where it's like some guy got caught with 13 terabytes of child pornography. And
Yeah.
some guy responds like, "Do you know how much a terabyte is? Throw this guy in a volcano."
Yeah. Well, that's not like 3 pictures he didn't know was there. This is like the Library of Congress of kiddie. Like, yeah, that I thought that would be life in prison for that kind of shit. Nope, guess not if you have money.
Yeah,
Or
if you
God,
got
maybe the police fucked it up and half the
well,
evidence.
and like I don't know, like yeah, if you don't talk and you got lawyers, it's like, well, prove it. Like, prove that I intentionally downloaded this and then looked at it or all that stuff. All it's and then
Yeah,
and then
I don't know.
the prosecutors don't want to spend money on it. It's like fine.
He's got millions. It's just he's fine. Are we gonna go after the producers of this? I'll never figure this out. What was the famous? What was the guy's name? The comedian Doug Stanhope. About how there's no acting credits in kiddie porn. They just do it for the art. There's no like film credits. No one's going to the Avian Awards looking for a trophy for that. Doug Stanhope, definitely. That's the darkest side of life right there.
Oh, when you help your mom commit assisted suicide.
Yeah, I mean it's a grim world. But yeah, that was one of the most shocking things I heard him like say on a stage in front of a bunch of people. Like, this isn't like a private horrible thought. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna broadcast this to the world.
Here, you do with it what you want.
Yeah.
We don't want it. That was the point.
Nobody does, but now it's stuck in your head. Oh, so we watched another movie this week.
Yes.
Watched the Netflix original
Shimmer Lake.
Which was a odd story. At first I thought it was like, well, at first I had to understand that, what would you call this kind of, is this like Rashomon?
No, not exactly, but it's told back. It's more akin to Memento, where it's told backwards.
Okay.
But there's basically segments, but it's told from the future and then it works its way to the beginning.
Yeah.
But like every segment has parallels with the previous segment. I like that one part, like when you first meet like the sheriff deputy, and he's like being told to get in the back of the seat, and he's just like flipping the fuck out. And you're like, what's wrong with this guy? And then as you go further through the movie, it's like, oh, he keeps getting asked to be put in the back seat of the car. It's because this is the furthest in the future. This is when he finally just flips the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this movie because usually a lot of these Netflix movies, we've had pretty low expectations for them.
Yeah.
And they even seem to like skim below those low expectations. So here I have low to no expectations. And I was pretty pleasantly surprised with this movie. It's got like problems and stuff is incomplete, but as just kind of like a whodunit thriller thing, I think it's pretty cool. And a lot of good comedic performances. Or I guess the other way, like comedians doing like dramatic performances. I think there's good stuff with that. I really like the shitty dumb FBI agents, Rob Corddry and Ron Livingston.
Oh yeah.
They were great.
They just come right out and say, yeah, we're like the B team. Even fuck around. It's like,
and I thought that was like a misdirect, like they were gonna be like playing dumb and like they were gonna solve this mystery in the end. Like no, they're just shitty FBI agents.
yeah. In Columbo here, where kind of doddering. And, nope.
The guy who plays the sheriff, like I don't think I've seen him in anything before, but like he reminds me of Liam Neeson, so I was like,
yeah, he kind of looks like Benjamin Walker.
Yeah,
he kind of looks like that. He's a Juilliard guy, I guess.
But he was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily if I got anything out of his whole There's a part where he's like the one his brother's wife keeps making food and he's just like disgusted by it. And I'm not sure
Yeah.
if that pays off in the end or if that was what that's supposed to mean other than like she's a shitty cook.
I think it was just kind of to offer an insight into how sad Rainn Wilson's life was.
Yeah.
With yeah, it's like, yeah, his life just sucks. This is why he would do things like this.
Well, like everyone's life's sad because like this is like all these people like the thing they like go back to and celebrate is like these high school football championships. Like they have tattoos
that's all
about
they
that. Like, it's fucking terrible. It's like shades of Al Bundy.
Yeah, retelling stories that everyone's heard 1,000 times.
Yeah. Although like I don't know. I think also it seems like everyone has a wildly different age difference. Like I don't know how like all these people could be on the same team. Like I didn't buy that. And was like was Rainn Wilson also supposed to be on the team or was he just his older brother?
I think it was just his older brother because there's like,
Because he just ends up getting involved because he was the prosecutor that dropped the case.
yeah, he was the one who they didn't go for manslaughter. They just went for the drug charges, even though a kid died as a result of the meth lab.
Yeah.
Him and the judge. That guy's a good actor too. I've seen him in a lot of things.
Yeah, he does a lot of comedic roles. He always reminds me of Fred Ward, who died today. That's sad.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he did, didn't he? How old was he?
I think I want to say 82.
Oh, okay.
Or no, wait. I can look it up. '77. Oh wait, no, not Fred Ward. Fuck, who am I thinking about? Fred Ward's a different guy. Who the fuck died today? Willard. No, it's Willard something.
Willard Scott.
Is it Willard Scott? No, Fred Willard. There, we got to it.
There we go. Oh, that guy died? Oh. That's sad.
Yeah.
He's 86. I didn't know he was that old. Okay. Yeah, there's like a 20-year age difference between the actors, Rainn Wilson and his brother. I don't know what it was in the movie, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what other movie I've seen that guy in.
Which guy?
Benjamin Walker. I think it was something that I liked.
Well, I think he was like.
Heart of the Sea. Yeah, he
Oh.
was in Heart of the Sea.
What's that about?
That's basically like the real story of Moby Dick.
Oh, okay.
Well, supposedly, but yeah.
Was that a Ron Howard movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually cool. It's slow, but it's if you like that kind of story. I was always a big fan of Moby Dick. So I was like, oh, this is an interesting retelling of that crazy time where it's like we go out in wooden ships and basically we throw spears into sea elephants and see who dies first. And they were literally throwing spears. Like it's not like today or the Japanese do it where it's like a guy on a cannon that fires an explosive harpoon. I mean, it's amazing to see the skill, but it's also sad because we don't really need to kill whales. We can have oil now, plenty of meat. We don't even do it anymore. I think it's just some people in Norway and Japan that do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, has nothing to do with this. It's the same actors.
Rainn Wilson's good. And they seem to, has.
Seems to embrace the role, and he's not a.
Well, also it seems like kind of small, but like they probably only had a very specific amount of time with him, so they probably just like, all right, let's knock out your part real quick.
Well, it's always neat to see him as not the Office character.
Yeah.
Where he can do like his full range of acting, where he can, not just be a weirdo, but be a guy with different.
Did you ever see his
cop show?
Yeah, Mud.
I watched a few of those.
I really liked it, but then they just immediately canceled it.
Oh, didn't make it.
No,
Yeah.
Because I remember that like, the interesting thing about that show is like it took place in Portland.
Oh, okay.
And so Portland weird and stuff like that. And I thought there was something about like they get into like Portland doesn't necessarily have enough homicides to warrant like a homicide like department.
Yeah.
So it's like like the robbery like division or some other divisions like handle homicides. And I think he was a part of like the traffic division, but that was because like he was like unstable, and that was just like the the tamest job they could give him. And then like, oh, we have a murder, like better get Mud in here.
Like the weird relationship he had with his doctor,
What was that?
the Indian guy, who just gives him weird things to do.
Oh
He's
yeah.
a hypochondriac, and he's like, "Make a friend this week." It's like, "How?" And then because what was the thing? Like when he first met like some of his best stuff in that was when he was having long conversations with people. But he knew not only was that guy an Indian, but he knew like what part of the country he was from. Like he had all this information, but he was very like very autistic in how he delivered it. It's like he would just say things like they were a fact, and it would kind of push people away from him. That was interesting.
And I think there was something where I think there was like a bartender that he like. I remember it was like his brother. He always talked to a bartender to kind of like put things together at the end of an episode.
Yeah.
And I think they like killed the bartender like in the third episode. It was like, oh, holy shit! Like nobody's safe if you're killing the bartender.
That show was called Backstrom.
Oh, Backstrom. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting.
Oh, I think he plays Harry Mudd in the start.
Oh yeah, that's right. He played one. He was the one with all the green skinned slave girls. Yeah. That was another. That was redeveloped from another TV show from another country.
What? Which one was that? Backstrom?
Backstrom.
Oh, okay.
Like Norway or something.
Oh, okay.
Because that conceit is mentioned where there's not enough murders to justify a team. Like I couldn't imagine in any major American city where there's not enough murders. In Norway.
Well, there's like a
Did I tell you about all the British police dramas I've been watching on Netflix?
no.
Like what was that one? Hinterlands.
What's that?
It's got who's in it? I forget. You'd know him if you saw him. I think he's a Game of Thrones guy or something. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's the one that it's shot in Welsh and English at the same time,
Huh.
like they do. But I mean, you don't see that. You can watch it on YouTube just because it's weird. But yeah, they do one scene in English and then they do the same scene in Welsh. And everyone's speaking Welsh because it's set in Wales.
Yeah.
And it's of course, it's called Hinterland because it's this troubled detective who was sent to this small police force in somewhere. But it's interesting, like, when things get exciting and he finally figures out because it always involves murder, and it's usually, like, terrible. It's like, it's a dark, gritty show in a lot of ways, but it's always someone's, like, bludgeoned to death with a club or something, and then they'll show the murder scene, and it's just like, someone poured gallons of blood all over, and but some of it's weird and psychological. But like some people there, like they have like guns, but the cops don't. So when he's got a guy coming after him with a shotgun, it's like, oh, they're gonna shoot this guy. Oh, wait, nobody has fucking guns. They have to like run and hide and stuff, and they have to call guys in with guns. Like they have to like call the special squad or whatever. And it's like, oh, this guy's walking into a house where there might be a killer. He doesn't have a gun, but it's just his darkness and broodiness that will carry him through. But yeah, it's like every episode involves murder and really bad shit too, like drowned her in the bathtub. But it's all these. It's a very noir type film because it makes Wales look like the most depressing place in the universe. Like you never want to live here.
I didn't know Detroit was in Wales.
Yeah, essentially. No, Detroit's in what's the city over there? Is it Blackpool or? Now, where's the place where Ozzy Osbourne's from? Liverpool? Or Manchester?
Manchester.
There's one of those cities that's like deindustrialized.
Yeah, it was like a steel.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that where the song Iron Man comes from? Because
I
like
think
just
so, yeah.
broken down steel mills. Like all our parents got laid off from the steel mill.
Yeah, Manchester was. Yeah, that was the place. Yeah, that's just as bad as Detroit. It's just there's more drug activity, less shootings, but just as much killing. They just use hammers and shit. But yeah, I've had 6 weeks off of work for the pandemic, so I've been watching a lot of shows I would never normally be interested in. And some of them are pretty good. Some of them are really bleak, though. Yeah, British cop shows. I gotta unplug after a while because it's always just raining and people are sad. And
Yeah, I was meant to get back to it. I never watched the 3rd season of Luther, but I remember I watched the first 2 seasons. Like, oh, this is genius, and I just never watched the last season. Actually, I think there's 4 seasons. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think there is now. Yeah, Luther was really good. Luther was really good, because, not necessarily for the story, but just for
Idris Elba.
Idris Elba. Like, he had this dialogue that was, it was amazing how he delivered it. Yeah, that was a pretty bleak show. I mean, that's in London, though, right?
Yeah.
Like the dark, bad side of London. Some other ones I don't know. I've watched a bunch of shit. Can't think of anything that stands out.
I remember Touching Evil.
Yeah.
I remember the American version, and then went to the British version. I was kind of let down. I really like the American version. The American version only got 1 season. Like, you can't even get it anywhere. I had to just get it off of YouTube. People uploaded it. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I was looking for. I remembered a couple of shows that USA came out with in 2000, and I was like, "Can I get them?" And like, you can't get them.
Yeah.
Like, they're just forgotten about. Like, you can't even buy them. Like, I don't even think they're on DVD. But in 2000, they came out 2 shows. One was The War Next Door, which was like a goofy, like, spy versus spy show where there was like, you had like this, do good spy guy, and then the next door neighbor was like an evil genius who was like trying to do all the things. And like within the show, like, they literally kill them. Like, in the first opening scene, like, he kills the evil genius guy, and the next day he's alive again. And then sometimes, like, the guy gets killed, like the good guy gets killed, and he just shows up the next day. It was fucking weird. I believe that was done by the guys who did the Adventures of Pete and Pete. Somewhere that was what I was being excited about.
Oh, okay.
Because that was an interesting, weird show. And the other one that came out alongside it was Manhattan AZ.
Okay.
Which is like I think and I barely remember. I remember that, like, he has a kid who's fat, and then he had a wife who was protesting, that dolphin safe tuna thing.
Yeah,
She was protesting, and she gets caught up in a tuna net and then gets killed and processed into tuna cans.
Nice.
And then that causes her then the son, like, gets really thin because then he, like, has no desire to eat anymore.
Yeah, because he might eat mom.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a dark comedy, and yeah, you look them up, and like, they both got canceled after 1 season.
Yeah,
which is weird. Hey, here's 2 new shows. Never mind. Yeah, but yeah, you can't rent them anywhere on Amazon. There's like no DVDs. Just something lost to time. Well, I'm pretty sure there's probably a hard drive out there, but
yeah.
like, I couldn't even find it on YouTube. Like, nobody even had it on YouTube.
Let's see, what are some other shows? There's one called the Plagues of something. It's a Polish police drama. It's actually I don't know if it's a series or a movie. I can't remember, but it's weird because it's filmed in Poland. Now they dubbed over it in English, but everyone's awful. like the cops are terrible. I mean, there's terrible people. They're all drunks,
Yeah.
very emaciated women, and people just drinking constantly. But there's like this guy or this person was. It's kind of like Seven, where they're doing like it wasn't this. It was like the Plagues of Belzun or something. It was called. And so they were reenacting the plagues that were visited on the city in the Middle Ages because a priest cursed them, and so this person's reenacting them, but it's all a revenge scheme. But it's like it's a revenge, like they have horses that are drawn around people in carriages in the park, and somebody calls the police and says, "This guy you're looking for, that I kidnapped, he's in this horse corral. You got to go get him." And the cops just rush in there and they open the door, and the guy's set up to be drawn and quartered. And as soon as they open the door, like fireworks go off, and the guy's pulled all apart. And then the police have to chase these horses through the streets because he's basically pulled in half by two horses.
Yeah.
Got to chase these horses through the street. This guy's torso's dangling behind one, and his legs are behind another. And this one lady cop who's a complete alcoholic and just a miserable person, like she was raised in a village in the woods, and so she knows how to deal with horses. But you don't see the bodies being drugged by the horses because everyone's just freaked out that horses are running around Warsaw or wherever the city is. It's not Warsaw, it's something like that. And then she stops the horse and everyone collapses, and this little girl starts screaming and she's pointing, and you see the guy's torso being drugged behind the horse. So it just goes from one bad thing to the next. And like I said, all these people are incredibly unlikable, but it's actually a satisfying thing to watch. But it's like, because you got the weird sex pervert people, because all these people are killed for a reason because they wronged the protagonist of the story in some way. And then the last person that's killed is her. She like kills herself. So it's very much like Seven.
Yeah.
Where but she teams up with the cop because she explains, this is why I'm killing these people and I'm going to be the last victim. And the cop's like, yeah, okay, I can see that. I can see why you're angry and this is deserved. But yeah, it's a dark movie. And they even go to like people's apartments and where they live, and they continue the story. Like, because all these cops do is talk to each other, and they're like up in this lady's apartment, and it literally looks like part of it was burned down and just like wallpapered over where it was on fire, and it's like, God,
as an American,
dark and miserable. This is where this cop lives, and you find out she lives there because she spends all her money on booze and stuff. And yeah, that was because like the first killing was a guy who was a sadist that worked at a butcher shop where they butchered horses. He was knocked out and then sewn into horse skin, like somebody skinned a horse, and they sewed his body into it and then left it out in the sun. It was real hot in Poland at this time. And so what happens is the skin contracts and it slowly suffocates him. And then his body was left in a meat market, and they find this bag that just looks like a giant purse made out of horse skin, and they cut it open and this dead guy's inside. And it's all stuff like that. It's really good. And then the other one I was watching was Babylon Berlin, which is that German one about the Weimar Republic right before the Nazis come to power. That's kind of interesting. It's weird, but it's interesting. Because to me, it looks like someone's weird interpretation of like Art Deco, hardcore German weirdness. And, it seems like a dream how it's filmed. Like, oh, this isn't real. These are just extreme stories and stuff but the people that produced the show, because I've just looked them up on YouTube, they're like, oh, this is a historical drama about the Weimar Republic, what Germany was like before the Nazis came. Like, they're talking about like it's straight history. And like the way it's filmed and the stories they tell, it's like, well, goddamn, this was almost worse than the fucking Nazis. The most corrupt, backward system you could imagine. Of course, I think the point of it is like, this is why the Nazis came to power. It's because this was the government that was left, in the vacuum of World War I. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, Shimmer Lake. It's about murder mysteries. So if you're looking for that.
Yeah, check it out. Or anything on Netflix.
I didn't like the performance by the lady. Her performance seemed like to be weird and like stilted at times, and then sometimes it was fine.
Yeah, I don't know what she was trying to convey. Like, was she always trying to be seductive?
Well, also like they put this plan together, and it seems like okay, they hint at where she's just kind of like forlornly staring, and then like they cut to a you know a what do you call those, trailer just caught on fire.
Yeah.
It's like oh she's like mourning the death of her son, and like she's playing all this stuff together. It's like, but then they kind of give her an out. Where like if the one guy, if he decided like he didn't want to like rob the bank, like she wasn't gonna go through with the plan, but like that's not gonna happen. Yeah, it was Wyatt Russell there. So that's another good role from him. He was the quarterback. That was her husband.
Oh, yeah. He was a hockey player or something before this, or in his previous career.
Oh, I don't know. I just
found it on IMDb.
just know him as Kurt Russell's son mostly.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, he was. I don't know if he was.
Well, I know him mostly from Lodge 49. That was that and oh fuck, what was that Nazi zombie movie, like Over something? What is it?
Oh, can't think.
But yeah, he was in that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he played ice hockey in the Netherlands.
Huh.
Oh, he was an overlord too. Oh, that's right. Yeah. That was right after this. And then he was in that the highly successful John William Scott hockey movie Goon.
Well, I got a sequel, so it must have been successful enough.
Yeah.
Did they make the sequel yet?
I don't know.
I think so. I think there's like The Age of the Goon or something like that. Because what else is Sean William Scott doing?
Whatever happened to him? He was like in a lot of things after American Pie, and then he just disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember Bulletproof Monk was a huge disappointment, and he kind of disappeared after that.
Yeah.
And then he kind of showed up again when he was in that Kevin Smith, Bruce Willis movie.
Oh, yeah.
Cop Out.
Yeah.
He showed up in that, and then after that, like I know he replaced the one guy in the Lethal Weapon series, and that's like the last thing I know him to have done.
Oh, okay.
Which I think.
I still like him from. He was a high point in Southland Tales.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
God, what's Richard Kelly doing?
I don't know, because he did the box.
Yeah, that was like almost like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it was that long ago. What is Richard Kelly doing? Untitled Rod Serling biopic.
Okay. Yeah, the last thing it has him having written was the box thing.
Yeah.
And apparently he wrote that S. Darko thing, the sequel to Donnie Darko.
I didn't know there was a sequel to Donnie Darko.
Oh yeah, I have not heard good things. Jesus, yeah, the last thing he directed was The Box, and that was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. He directed my son's favorite movie.
What's that?
Donnie Darko.
Oh, okay.
He watches that obsessively. Like, him and his girlfriend watch it. Like, what are you trying to tell me here? Still can't believe. Yeah, I forgot The Rock was in Southland Tales.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I miss Richard Kelly. I wish he could make.
I hope he didn't get like Me Too'd or something.
I hadn't heard that.
I'm trying to think, like, why is he just like hasn't done anything for 11 years?
Well, none of his stuff performs.
No, no.
Even though it's
But you figure like he would have been like, he would have written something and not directed it.
yeah, you'd think. I don't know.
Or he'd be doing TV or something.
Let me go to the box office. Hold on, everyone. This is about to get good.
Yeah, Wikipedia just says that Rod Serling biopic is something to be announced. Huh. Oh, did you ever see the box?
Yeah.
Was it good?
It wasn't bad. It was. I mean, it was kind of reminiscent of a Twilight Zone.
Yeah, that's what I expect. But
Long movie.
yeah, I mean, the only thing, like, Donnie Darko was a cult movie. It got, basically, because of 9/11 stuff, it got pushed out of theaters.
Yeah.
But it became a cult hit on DVD. You know, they did, like, several releases of that. And then, Southland Tales, pretty much the same thing. I don't know how it's a cult. It doesn't really have the cult following that Donnie Darko does, but Southland Tales is definitely something we need to revisit, because there are a lot of good things about that movie, despite it being, there's a lot of things wrong with that movie, but there's a lot of things great about that movie too.
Yeah, Southland Tales. The problem I have with that, unlike Donnie Darko, where it's like upon multiple viewings of Donnie Darko, it draws you in more. Southland Tales was like a shotgun fired at a wall. Like, things going on. And that was kind of written at the apex of like we hate George W. Bush.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's definitely like dated even today. He basically was producing a lot of stuff.
Okay.
His production company made World's Greatest Dad. Also, God Bless America. So he's working with Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah, those are both his movies.
Bad Words, the Jason Bateman movie.
Okay.
And then Home Sweet Hell, starring Katherine Heigl. So he's basically running a production company, and he kind of seems to have the production cycle of that guy who did Primer.
Yeah.
It's like the 12-year movie Odyssey. It's like, yeah, I've got something coming out. Just wait a decade, or get in your time box, whatever it's going to be. And then Upstream Color comes out, and it's like, wow, I didn't think it could get much weirder than Primer, but it did. So it seems to be that kind of production cycle.
Who knows? Maybe he'll make something in Netflix for in the next year.
And he will. Well, that's all I have. So unless you have anything else,
Oh, sure, but
we'll save it.
oh yeah, I was gonna talk about the assignment. Oh well, we'll save it for another time.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, I've got to get back on my work schedule.
All right.
'Cause I can't stay up till 3 a.m. and then go to sleep, wake up, and go get up again at 3 a.m. the next day.
Yeah.
Anyway, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
And this is Colin. Goodbye, America.